All right, Hosea 14, verse 1. He says, O Israel, return unto the Lord thy God, for thou hast fallen by thine iniquity. Take with you words. Now, this is the book of Hosea presents a problem, and it offers a solution. Here's the solution to the book of Hosea. Take these words. You're so stupid you wouldn't even know what to say. I'm going to give you the prescription. And here it is. Take with you words and turn to the Lord and say unto him, Take away all iniquity and receive us graciously. So will we render the calves of our lips. That's a good confession right there. I need you to forgive all, what's he say? Iniquity. That is the sin that I've compounded publicly and taught someone else to sin by. I want that one wiped away. Oh, that's a good one. You want that one wiped away. He says, take these words with you, as though you're going to be able to remember it. I don't know, but the prescription is given. Look at it in Jeremiah chapter 50. One day the Lord is going to take away the iniquity of Israel as a whole, the whole nation. He says in Jeremiah 50, verse 20, In those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none. The sins of Judah, and they shall not be found, for I will pardon them whom I reserve. Here God says, I'm going to wipe away all sin and iniquity from the nation. That's a pretty good deal, isn't it? That's what Daniel's 70 weeks is all about. He says, this infraction they've done against God requires a punishment period. At the end of that punishment period, I hit the reset button and everything's wiped clean. That's a good deal. But now don't get jealous. That's exactly what you were given. When you got saved, you got pure the righteousness of God. Doesn't get any better than that. These Israelites had to come up with their own righteousness. I'm glad I'm not them. Let's find this in prophecy. Numbers chapter 23. Numbers 23, verse 21. The only way this passage works is if God's seeing way down in the future. Numbers 23, 21. Balaam before Balak. He's given a prophecy here. Balak says, I want you to curse these people. He says, well, I can't do any more than what God tells me I can do, although I sure would like your house and all your goods. And Numbers 23, 21. The he there is speaking of God, hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob. Really? He didn't look very close, did he? Neither hath he seen perverseness in Israel. The Lord his God is with him, and the shout of a king is among them. God brought them out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of an unicorn. Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob, neither is there any divination against Israel. According to this time it shall be said of Jacob and of Israel, what hath God wrought? Well, he can't say that right now. Right now they're in rebellion against him. If you go to Israel and try to study Judaism, it's Kabbalah. It's wickedness. It's mysticism. Verse 24, Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion, and lift up himself as a young lion. He shall not lie down until he eat the prey and drink the blood of the slain. Armageddon. Israel, the nation, is going to wipe out all of their enemies. That's quite a prophecy. When Israel's been, they're coming through the wilderness here, and they've been complaining every 2 steps. God says, I know their end. Let me tell it to you. And one day that's going to fulfill itself. Let's find out exactly what these people get to do when they come back, or when they're given the go-ahead by God. It's in Psalms 149. Psalm 149, verse 6. Could you imagine this? The Israelites, who will finally be seeking their real Messiah, not these phony things. And he finally shows up and wipes away iniquity and sin from them, makes them pure and holy, and turns them loose on all their enemies. That's going to be a day. Psalm 149, verse 6. Let the high praise of God be in their mouth and a two-edged sword in their hand. Now that's not talking about a book. It's talking about a sword. Because watch what happens. Verse 7. To execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishment upon the people. To bind their kings with chains and their nobles with fetters of iron. To execute upon them the judgment written. This honor hath all his saints. Praise ye the Lord. Whew. That's Armageddon. One day he's coming back and he's setting things straight. Everything's going to be rectified. This world's got many problems. Probably got many more problems than we even are aware of. But it's all going to be rectified one day. God's aware of all of them. Romans chapter 11. Romans 11:26. Here's when he fixes Israel in the future. Romans 11:26. Romans 11:26. And so all Israel shall be saved, all of them. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and he shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. Now you could say he's saying that he's going to save them as though he's going to be the head general that comes in and keeps them safe. That's not what he's talking about. Because he says he's going to turn away ungodliness. You could save somebody from a car accident, but you couldn't save them from ungodliness. Okay, he can. And that's what he's going to do one day. He's going to grant them salvation. It's not a reference to the atonement of Jesus Christ that you and I got. That's something different. That was at his first advent. The second one, he's coming back and he's setting the Jew back in the position he intended for them from the beginning. Look at verse 27, Romans 11:27. For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. That's the new covenant. You'll find that. I've shown the verses. It's a long list of verses on the new covenant. The new covenant always deals with Israel coming back into the position God had intended for them from the beginning. Jeremiah chapter 31. This shows up many times in the Bible. It always is a reference to the end of Daniel's 70th week there, when God has fed up, given the Antichrist his run, the devil incarnate, and he says, okay, now let me clean the slate. And he does that. Jeremiah 31, look at verse 34. Jeremiah 31:34. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord. For they shall all know me. I guess so, if he's coming back and wiping them out. Everybody's going to know him. I mean, just physically know him. Because he's the one who just destroyed all the wickedness in the world. Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquities, and I will remember their sin no more. Whew, that's a clean slate. Now, I know it looks good for Israel, but I wouldn't want to wait around and try to be part of that. You might not make it. Matter of fact, if you've been given the opportunity to accept Jesus, you won't make it. Jeremiah 16, verse 18. Jeremiah 16:18. And first, I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double. Whew. That's bad news. That's what the tribulation's all about. He's mad. He's repaying them double. Because they have defiled my land, they have filled mine inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. Whew. That's how God sees it. He says, the only way to cleanse the land from innocent blood is to kill the one who did it. Well, God's going to uphold the same law that he's told man he's got to do. Think of all the abortions and the wicked, just the killing, the murder. He's going to set the story straight, but it's going to require some serious punishment. They said in our verse there in Hosea, they said, we'll render the calves of our lips. That is, instead of kissing the calf, like the Pope has everybody come up and kiss his ring. And that kissing thing has just always bugged me. It's just unsanitary. Think of all the germs. But they do it. There's something about that kissing that is in the spirit realm. The devil sees it as something. He sees it as a union between a man and something unholy. They say here, we're not going to kiss these calves anymore, we'll kiss you. And Psalms 2 tells us exactly you're supposed to kiss the Son, lest he be angry and kill you. Hosea 13, look at verse 2. Hosea 13:2. He says, and now they sin more and more, and have made them molten images of their silver, and idols according to their own understanding, all of it the work of the craftsman. They say of them, let the men that sacrifice kiss the calves. Now, that's a woman-sounding thing anyway. Why are they having men do it? But he says we're going to make our own images. I read that and I think, who would be so silly as to worship an idol and an image? However, it's going on all over the world. We don't see it in America so much, but all over the world they're still doing it. Paul over and over talks about idolatry. Okay, it's going to be a real deal, and by the time the Antichrist shows up, it's going to be in full swing. Look at Psalm 107. Psalm 107, verse 22. Here's the kind of sacrifices that Israel should have been doing. He says, let them sacrifice the sacrifices of thanksgiving. Now we read right over that. Israel's been being beat to a pulp, and he says, you ought to be offering some sacrifice of thanksgiving. You're still breathing, aren't you? Be thankful. Thanksgiving. And declare his works with rejoicing. There's always something we can be thankful for. It's just hard to make your mind think it up. And that's an exercise a Christian should get better and better at the longer you're saved, because we should always be trying for it. Hebrews 13. Instead of kissing a calf, put your lips to work doing something profitable. Hebrews 13, verse 15. It says, by him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God continually. That is, the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name. There are some words in the Bible I wish weren't in there. He says there, this praise thing is supposed to be a sacrifice. A lot of times when you praise God, it's not because you want to. You're doing it as a sacrifice. It's against your desire, and you've got to do it anyway. Hosea 14, verse 3. Look at there, we've already made it through 2 verses. Y'all are moving. Verse 3. He says, Asher shall not save us. That is, we're not counting on our brother. We will not ride upon horses. They shouldn't have been riding horses to begin with. It was outlawed for an Israelite. Neither will we say any more to the work of our hands, ye are our gods. The idols are gone. For in thee the fatherless findeth mercy. Okay, Egypt is where they went to get horses. And Solomon joins in with Egypt when he does that. It's tempting to think the world has something that can benefit us. What were they? They were supposed to ride around on mules. I mean, how exciting does that sound? And Egypt's got the big, bad, stallions that they're riding around on. And he said, don't even go to Egypt. Don't go to Egypt at all. But he did. Not only got him a horse, he got him a wife down there too. Bad news. Isaiah 31. Isaiah 31, verse 3. I know some people might think of it as, If you study history, Egypt is not a very powerful nation. Ancient history exalts Rome, Greece, Babylon for a while, Assyria. Egypt is a minor player on the scene. However, they were full of wickedness, satanic stuff. And because of that, God repeatedly warns Israel, stay away from Egypt, their pure wickedness. When he's talking about the Antichrist, many times he refers to Pharaoh, referring to the Antichrist. To Egypt is satanic. Isaiah 31 verse 3. Now the Egyptians are men and not God, and their horses flesh and not spirit. When the Lord shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth and he shall fall, and he that is holpen shall fall down, and they shall fail together. That's the way you want to have a failure, isn't it? You don't. If you're going to fail, you want everybody around you to fail too, so you don't look so bad. However, wouldn't you rather just not be in the crowd that's failing? That's what he says. I'm already going to tell you, if you go down to Egypt, they're going to fail. I'm going to see to it. And they do. 1 Kings 10. Here's Solomon do it. 1 Kings 10, verse 28. 1 Kings 10, verse 28. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt, and linen yarn. And the king's merchants received the linen yarn at a price. Yeah, the price was a lot bigger price tag than he thought. Destroyed his reign and his son's reign. Deuteronomy 17. Deuteronomy 17, verse 16. The law for a king. Deuteronomy 17, 16. But he shall not multiply horses to himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he should multiply horses. For as much as the Lord hath said unto you, ye shall henceforth return no more that way. Now, you think about it and you think, well, why did he even let them get down there in Egypt to begin with if it's so wicked and horrible? Well, it's the picture. That's where you came from. You came out of Egypt. A Christian, Egypt is a picture of the world. When we get saved, we should not return. They got nothing for us. They're going to fail. We already know it. Look at Amos chapter 5. In Hosea, he said, we'll not say to the work of our hands, you're our gods. They're not going to worship images anymore. Now, it's going to take them a long time to come to that conclusion. Right now, they've got their number one image flying on a flag, the Star of David. Amos chapter 5, verse 26. But ye have not borne the tabernacle of your Moloch and Churin, your images, the star of your God, which you made to yourselves. David didn't have a star. That was a late thing that came out of Babylon. The Star of David is not of David. That's a myth. Verse 22. Therefore will I cause you to go into captivity beyond Damascus, saith the Lord, whose name is the Lord of hosts. So he's going to carry him away. This is the first exile. He's taking them to Babylon. But it doesn't end there. I'll get you to the next stage in just a second. I'm going to run a couple more rabbits on this one. Jeremiah 27. Jeremiah 27, verse 22. Here's the first installment of the punishment for this image they've come up with. Jeremiah 27, 22. They shall be carried to Babylon, and there shall they be until the day that I visit them, saith the Lord. Then will I bring them up and restore them to this place. This place is Jerusalem. That's when they were carried away to Babylon. First of all, they went into Syria, took them. Then Babylon came in and cleaned the whole seaboard. Look at the next installment, because they're still flying the same flag with the same image on it. Acts chapter 7. Acts 7, verse 43. 7:43. Yea, you took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Remphan, figures which you made to worship them. And I will carry you away beyond, not Damascus this time, Babylon this time. You think this is a quote from the Old Testament, but he's changed something here. In the Old Testament, he says, I'm going to take you away beyond Damascus. Syria came in, took them away beyond Damascus. This one is, I'm going to take you away beyond Babylon. That'll be under the Antichrist. Revelation 17. Revelation 17:5. It says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the Great, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth. So this Babylon does not have to be a geographical Babylon. It can be, as he says right here, Mystery Babylon, something satanic spiritually. And of course, when the Antichrist shows up, it's all going to be satanic. Look at it in Psalm 50. Psalm 50, verse 7. I don't know that it's this way anymore, but used to, when I was growing up and with my children, you watched out for your children. You weren't so much concerned about the others. I mean, they're all wicked anyway, you know that. But you keeping an eye on yours. Now God's the same way. The heathen are wicked. He knows he's going to destroy them anyway. But his children, the children of Israel, he's keeping an eye on at all times. And when they mess up, he's going to correct them. Psalm 50, verse 7. Hear my people, and I will speak. O Israel, and I will testify against thee. I am God, even thy God. Speaking to the nation here. A lot of people want to spiritualize that and say it's Christians. It has nothing to do with Christians. That's why when Jesus showed up, he says, when you pray, speaking the Sermon on the Mount, 5,000 people or however many sitting out there, all these Jews, he says, when you pray, pray like this, Our Father. They weren't Christians. The only way he could be their father is if they were Jews. And God was the father of the nation. Isaiah 45. Isaiah 45:12. Israel was created as a religion. I mean, first and foremost was a religious nation to serve God and follow his commandments and his laws. So you'd think if anybody had reverence and knowledge of the true God, it had been Israel, but they forgot it real quick. Isaiah 45:12. I've made the earth, God's reintroducing himself, and created man upon it. I, even my hands, have stretched out the heavens, and all their host have I commanded. God's have to... America's getting this way. They don't know who God is. That's right. It's almost like you've got to start over at square one. There is a creator. You're accountable to him. And then, you know, it might take you 6 months to convince them of that. You can't convince them. God's got to reveal it to them. Isaiah 48. Isaiah 48, verse 16. Isaiah 48:16. Come ye near unto me, hear ye this. Now, picture it. I know I'm stopping and I'm enjoying this too much, but that's okay. Picture this. This is God speaking. He's speaking to a nation. Here's what he says. Come here, listen to me. This reminds me of my grandfather. He used to pull this trick on us all the time. He said, hey, come here, I got a secret for you. And it was, after he did it the first time, you don't trust him. And so, you know, he would finally convince you again to come listen to his secret. And his secret was turkey squat. I don't know what that means. It was a great joke to him, but it was over and over. Here, God is calling the nations, and he's saying, come here, I got something to tell you. Hear ye this. I have not spoken in secret from the beginning. From the time that it was, there am I. And now the Lord God, the Spirit, hath sent me. He's saying, look, do you know who I am? He's got to reintroduce himself over and over. In the tribulation, the message is not the message we're preaching now. The message will be the everlasting gospel. You know what the everlasting gospel is? The one element that is true for all gospels. There is a creator. You need to know him. You're accountable to him. As a Christian, you can never be fatherless. Now that's a great benefit. You can never be fatherless. John 14:16, he says this, Jesus says, "And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever." No way to disown you. He's always going to be with you forever. That's a great benefit. Israel doesn't know anything about that. Didn't in the Old Testament. Isaiah 43:11, he says this, "I, even I am the Lord, and beside me there's no Savior." Now that's true. Israel's going to look high and low to find one. They have been their whole existence. Come tribulation time, they're going to continue looking. We've seen it in the dispersion. They went down to Egypt to try to find help. Egypt didn't help. They linked up with Assyria. Assyria didn't help. Even when they go to Babylon, Babylon falls. Cyrus is going to come in and take over. It's always one eating the next one, eating the next one. There's no help outside of God. He's the Savior. Hosea 11, look at verse 1. Hosea 11, verse 1. Seems like God's picking on one nation. And he is. There's a reason for it. Hosea 11, 1. "When Israel was a child," so the nation young, "then I loved him and called my son out of Egypt." So he's referring to the whole nation as his son. They're the children of God in a loose sense, not the way we know it. Look at verse 3, Hosea 11:3. "I taught Ephraim also to go, taking them by their arms, but they knew not that I healed them." That's just like a child, isn't it? You do so many things for them and they don't even know. They're not even aware of it. God says, that's what I was doing to my nation. I was taking care of them, just like a son. I pulled them out of harm's way, and I did this for them and that for them. They didn't even know. Look at chapter 3, Hosea 3:11 or 3:1. Hosea 3:1. Here's how God feels about the way the nation has been treating him. He says, I want to do an object lesson. Hosea 3:1. "Then said the Lord unto me, Go yet, love a woman, beloved of her friends, yet an adulteress, according to the love of the Lord toward the children of Israel, who look to other gods and love flagons of wine." They love other gods. That's idolatry, wickedness. People want to stop it right there. It doesn't stop right there. And love wine. You got to work really hard to find you one verse that seems like you could bend it out of shape to make wine look okay. Many times when wine shows up, it's connected to absolute satanic involvement. Another god, that's satanic. You know what he links it with? Wine. You know what they call it in the world? They call it spirits. Yeah, there's a reason for it. Satanic. Look down at Hosea 3, verse 4. "For the children of Israel shall abide many days without a king, and without a prince, and without a sacrifice, without an image, and without an ephah, and without teraphim." It says, as a nation, they're going to lose everything that was their identity as a nation because of how they've treated God, the reason for them being a nation. Look at verse 5. "Afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their God." So he says, I'm going to put them through this time of punishment, and I know it's going to work. When God says he knows something, I guess he knows it. He says, I'm going to punish them within an inch of their life. Matter of fact, a lot of them are going to lose it. But it's going to work. Afterward, they'll be looking for me. They'll come back to me. "Afterward shall the children of Israel return and seek the Lord their God." Now look at this one. "And David their king. and shall fear the Lord and his goodness in the latter days. The latter days is always a reference to, imagine this, in the original Greek it says, latter days. We ain't there yet. Now, the time is a lot closer than it's ever been, but it ain't the latter days. The latter days in the Bible is a reference to Israel. It's a reference to the tribulation. Now, we're in the latter days of our age, I believe that, but this ain't the last age. Hosea 14:4. We got time? We got time for maybe one more. Hosea 14:4. Hosea 14:4. This is the high point of the book because it's finally positive. The book has been by and large negative. But now he's given you a prophecy of eventually God's going to get back what he started. He's going to make it right. Hosea 14:4. I will heal their backsliding. I will love them freely, for mine anger is turned away from them. After just saying I'm going to smash them into a pulp, and he says, no, there's coming a day I'll be able to love them freely because I'll give them righteousness. He's going to grant them salvation. He's going to not make them learn the law, memorize it like an Israelite would do. He's going to write it in their heart and in their mind. He's going to take away their stony heart and give them a heart of flesh. Matthew chapter 6. Matthew 6, verse 28. Of all the nations on the earth, no nation has ever suffered like Israel. I know that everybody wants to claim they're the minority that needs to be recouped some reparations. But if we get down to it, it should be Israel. Every nation has gone after them, except for maybe America. Matthew 26:28. And why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. He's going to go on and he's going to liken the nation to a lily. He says, lilies I take care of. And the nation of Israel he's taken care of. So when they're not taken care of, you know whose fault that is? It's because God decided they can't be taken care of. He's doing it on purpose. Look at Matthew 9. Matthew 9, verse 12. He said in Hosea that he was going to heal them. So here in Matthew 9, verse 12, he says, But Jesus heard that, he said unto them, They that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. Obviously, Israel, according to him, has been pretty sick, because he says he's going to heal them. So they need some help. Now, that's just a good verse to know. You find a bunch of kooks running around saying don't ever go to a doctor. The Bible doesn't say don't go to a doctor. It says don't put your faith in the doctor. But there's some physicians out there that no doubt God uses. He says they that be whole need not a physician. That tells me if you're not whole, you better go get you a physician. But they that are sick. Now, if Jesus said it, I don't think we need to look for another explanation for it. It's pretty plain. We got Isaiah 12. Isaiah 12, verse 1. Isaiah 12, 1. This will be our last verse because we'll be able to end on a high note. That's unusual for us. Isaiah 12, 1. And in that day thou shalt say, O Lord, I will praise thee. Though thou wast angry with me, thine anger is turned away, and thou comfortest me. That's good. We're supposed to be the example to the nation of Israel so they get jealous. I mean, that's what he says in Romans chapter 11. We're supposed to make them jealous. Well, we've already got everything that they're wanting, or they should be wanting. He says God's going to comfort them after having been angry with them. You know, you've got something right now. You've got a perpetual comforter with you. in the tribulations, the Israelites ought to be able to look back and say, I remember those Christians, they went through some horrible things, but yet they always seem to have the Comforter. One day God's going to comfort them, but it ain't now. We've got it. We need to use it. All right, we better end on that positive note, and we'll pick up next week at Hosea 14:5.